Hello and welcome back to TUC0's Talks. My name is Chris Wright, and TUC0's Talks is a leadership podcast. We're going to talk to some military officers, we're going to talk to some enlisted, we're going to talk to coaches, and we're going to ask some really tough questions on leadership and see if we can find some advice on failing forward and really taking care of people. Before we get there, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Reminder that all proceeds go to Morae Classical Schools, which is a private classical Christian school for military families, all about alleviating the burdens on a military family. So if you want to do your part, just hit that like, subscribe button. Go check them out at moraeclassicalschools.org and find out. Well, for now, let's get into it. This is TUC0 Wright checking in. Welcome to TUC0's Talks. I have a special guest today. I am really excited. This is something a little bit different. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to go through it. As all of you know, I'm horrible with names, so I'm going to try this the best. And we have Marina Krivonossova. How did I do, Marina?
That was beautiful.
Well, awesome. Well, I really appreciate you being here today. I know you reached out to me, and so of course I did my research and all the things that you have. You've been on a ton of podcasts. You have a great background. UC Irvine, a graduate, a LinkedIn top marketing digital voice. So we'll talk about that. Why don't you just introduce yourself to the podcast here, and we'll get going.
Absolutely. So, as you said, I'm Marina. I'm Russian American, but I'm living in the Netherlands at the moment. Kind of just followed a lifelong dream of moving to Europe. I work as a marketer. I just recently launched, well, I say recently, it's actually been a few months already. It still feels like yesterday. I launched my own B2B content marketing agency. My background before that was in political science and all things non-marketing. But yeah, that's kind of where I found my career calling, and that's where I'm at today.
That is awesome. Wow. Okay, so I always hear things and I have to stop because they're a massive impact. Okay, Russian American. How did you get to UC Irvine?
So, when I was very little, my dad got a job in the US, which is how we moved to the Bay Area over in California. And when it was time to do my bachelor's, I was kind of thinking of where do I want to go? And again, Europe came up, but I was like, okay, let's hold off a bit. Let's see what we can do here for now. So, I knew I loved Southern California, and it was one of those things where I wanted to get away from my family, which is classic, but also be close enough that they are nearby. Like if anything happens, or, we can still see each other conveniently without flying halfway across the country. So naturally, Southern California was a thing. And funny enough, UC Irvine's mascot is an anteater, which is my dad's favorite animal. So when I applied to UC Irvine, I think I applied to all the UCs. He saw the anteater and he was like, Marina, you have to. And I was like, well, let's see. I don't know. I was pretty set on UC San Diego, but then UC Irvine accepted me in their first batch of acceptances, and they accepted me with honors, which meant so many nice things, including priority housing, which if you know, because housing is so hard to get on a college campus. So I was like, okay, priority housing, SoCal, anteaters, with my dad being like, come on, they're anteaters. So yeah, that's how I ended up at UC Irvine.
That is awesome. Okay, and political science and all of that. So what, put yourself back 18 years old, dream job, what was it?
18 years old, dream job. It's not political science. I wanted to work at a bank, which is like super unsexy. And like, who says that at 18, right? But I was like, I
That is
want to work at a
awesome.
bank, not like as a teller. I was like, I want to do like the cool finance predictions. I guess more Wall Street type banking as opposed to just like a teller at like, I don't know, Chase or something. So that was the dream. And I was studying business economics at the time. And I think I had 2 or 3 more classes left when I spontaneously switched majors to international relations.
Yeah. And, as you start looking through your background, what you want, where you are, you go UC Irvine, now I'm going bank, now I'm going into international relations. It's no doubt you are where you are today. And so the Netherlands, that's a change. So when did you move there?
I moved there in 20.
Okay. So you've been there a couple years. You've been in a couple of businesses. Really, really interesting. Is it Flickr? Is that old business that you were at? What was the
Oh,
one where
Fazir.
Fazir? Okay, Fazir. What was that?
So
What type of
Fazir,
job is that?
so I was the head of marketing at Fazir, which is a software company. It was an AI software company in the automation space. So logistics, that kind of thing. So when you think of like packages being sorted, depalletized like at an Amazon warehouse, they create the software for robots to be able to do that.
So as I was doing the research, I saw a video on that, and you were moderating as it was going through, and I was like, I don't know what this is, but it's really cool. And so
Yeah.
you've had just such a myriad of opportunities, such a great career. You're in the marketing space now and B2B. For those of us who have no marketing experience, what in the world is B2B?
So B2B, there's two types of marketing in kind of the general space. There's B2C, which is business to consumer or customer, and then there's B2B, which is business to business. So B2C would be something like, let's say Walmart. Because you as a consumer go to Walmart, Walmart sells shampoo, clothes, food, whatever it is to you as the individual, as the consumer. But B2B, that's more what Fazir was doing. So they were selling this automation software to companies who created, robots, for instance, or the whole package of automation for companies. So that's B2B.
Okay. And so that's probably so elementary, but for someone has a military background and is in
Of
education,
course.
I was listening to it and I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to Google this one because I don't know what this is. And so that's incredible. Okay, so when I looked at your LinkedIn, it had top digital marketing voice, I think is what it said.
Mhm.
What is that? What does that mean?
So LinkedIn started offering these badges, I think a few months ago. And the way you get them is by contributing to a certain amount of collaborative articles. And the articles, like themselves, are actually AI generated. So a person doesn't create them, but they exist in various categories, such as digital marketing, but also like personal finance, or I'm sure there's something military related as well. But you can contribute to articles in the category that makes sense for you, the one where you want to get your badge. So I would go into those digital marketing articles that are AI generated and kind of leave my comments, leave my human additions, and kind of just make it relevant for readers in the digital marketing space. And you get that badge if your comments get a certain number of upvotes. You can vote on other people's comments. And yeah, that's the way. It's completely free. You have nothing to lose to make that work.
That's pretty incredible. Like you just take a little bit of your time, you go in and you put a contribution in, you see who likes it, and if people like what you're saying, that's how you get to be known as a top voice. That makes a lot of sense. You want to be able to
Mhm.
find those experts in their field that are providing value and that can get out, and you've done that. Well, that's awesome. And I think that's good for leaders and especially young leaders as we look at LinkedIn, which has sometimes become the Facebook of business where people are giving business advice. And I'm like, no, do not do that. That's horrible. And to find someone who's a top voice is such a good idea because other people are validating. Yeah, that's probably a smart way to go. So awesome on that. All right. So what are you doing now? What is your job? Where are you going? And how are you making productive noise is what I will call it on LinkedIn.
So my company is just me, myself, and I. That's what I wanted to do when I ventured out on my own. So Retold is a B2B content marketing agency, and I help support people kind of in two fields that are related, kind of intertwined, which is content marketing, kind of as its own separate thing, but also LinkedIn. And in that sense, I mean like personal branding, thought leadership, establishing your presence specifically in the B2B space. Because I think if you work in B2B, if you're a founder, if you're in sales, if you're in marketing, like you have to be on LinkedIn and you have to be active. So those are kind of the main two spheres in which my company and I operate. And what I do a lot on LinkedIn is just posting content about LinkedIn and content marketing, which, it's all free. It's just kind of general knowledge that I'm sharing with people. Like if you want to grow on LinkedIn, if you want to get started in your content marketing journey, if you want to reevaluate your content marketing approach, those are kind of my main, topics that I like to post about. Occasionally I'll throw in something about expat life because I know a lot about that, about traveling, because that's something that I really enjoy, which also taught me a lot. But that's kind of the approach I take primarily.
Okay. So to a lot of young leaders, they're trying to figure out what is she talking about? Like she's got all this expertise, but I don't understand. Okay, I am a 22-year-old right out of college. I'm excited. I'm just crushing the world, right? And I want to go learn about this digital marketing. Where do I go? What do I do? How do I obviously I learned it in school and school teaches school stuff, but in real world experience, how do I do this? Where do I go?
So the good news is that no matter what you studied in school, be it political science or digital marketing or engineering, whatever it is, you can make a career in digital marketing. It is one of those things where practice trumps theory absolutely any day of the week. And the reason for that is marketing, especially digital marketing, it's evolving so quickly that textbooks and classes just simply can't keep up with what's happening. I took, I think, 1 or 2 marketing classes in college just for fun. At that point, I had no clue I wanted to do it. And I remember like hearing about the platforms that they were saying, yeah, if you're a marketer, you'll use these. And I was like, those definitely have not been relevant for a really long time. Like, I mean, I wasn't studying marketing, so I didn't care. I was like, okay, whatever. But the people there who were studying marketing, I was like, oh no, they're going to leave this class like doing the wrong thing if they're listening to this, you know? Like it's changing so quickly. So what I advise people to do if they want to get into digital marketing, and again, it's a very general field. There's so many aspects of it. I always recommend them to try their hand at a few different things. Kind of make a list what interests you, what are you good at, where that overlap is, and try your hand at a few different things. So I'm talking about copywriting, social media management, maybe web design. There's a lot that goes into it. There's email marketing. It's a whole separate thing. And I say try your hand out at all of them, whether that be maybe through an internship or a junior role, or even through making your own experience. I ended up doing a lot of that because I couldn't get the job I wanted. I couldn't get the experience I wanted. So what I started doing is reaching out to NGOs whose mission and vision kind of aligned with what I cared about. And I'd be like, hey, I noticed you guys are not doing much on the social media channel. Do you need help? I've done it a little bit. I know a little bit about it. I'll do it completely for free. I just want to try it out. And I built so many LinkedIn pages. I built so much. And it didn't feel like I was being taken advantage of because I don't believe in working for free. But you know, I was volunteering my time to organizations who I supported. They were getting value out of it. I got recommendations, connections out of it. So I think that's a really great place to start to kind of figure out what you're good at, what you want to do without losing a lot of time in a way.
Yeah, that leads down a path. And we have not talked about this, but I want to go down it because I think it's critical. I don't want to work for free, but I do want to work with others. You used an acronym NGO. What does that mean?
An NGO is a non-governmental organization. So for
Okay,
instance,
all
when
right.
I was into political science, you know, there were the governmental organizations, like where you work for the government to do something. And then there's the NGOs that are more focused, at least in my area of interest, it was like human rights organizations.
Yeah. Okay, so NGO, that's what it means to me, but I was like, surely she's not talking about NGOs. But
Yeah, yeah.
so when you go and you try to decide, like, how do I know if I want to go volunteer versus how do I know I'm being taken advantage of?
Mhm.
How do you work that out in your mind and your matrix of, all right, this is going to be value added. I could put this into my bag of tricks here or the skill sets that I need.
So there's a lot of ways of looking at it, and a lot of it does come down to intuition, but there's certain things to look out for. So there was an it's hard to say an NGO. An NGO I was working for. I looked into the head of the NGO and I did my research on him. And he just seemed like a really down to earth guy. I saw the projects he was investing his time into. He was working with children. He was giving back to the community. He genuinely was just doing so much to help people. And immediately I was like, I offered to help this guy. And I was like, you know, you're doing something good. I can tell you're doing something good. At the same time, I saw a different organization, which also positioned themselves as an NGO, hiring for an unpaid position to help them with their social media. And I was like, okay, the fact that they're already asking for this, I didn't even offer yet. They're already trying to find someone. That's kind of weird, but let's look into it. I saw the head of the NGO traveling by private jet to these, you know, to these local, kind of more distant
Mm-hmm.
communities. He was posing for pictures. He had a nice suit. It was all very staged looking to me. And I was like, if he has the money to afford a private jet, to get that nice suit, to take those nice pictures, he has the money to pay a social media intern, and I'm not going to do it for free. So it's little things like that to look out for. Research the people, research the actual work the organization has done, and again, see, does this align with what I care about, what I want to do? And more often than not, I think it'll be pretty easy to tell once you invest that time into researching.
Yeah, that's so good. I wouldn't have even thought to go there. And we have a lot of retired military that watch this too. And as we're transitioning from military, where you do what you're told, that's just the way it goes. You get a little decision matrix on what you're going to do. But oh my gosh, I need a job. I need to go. And the fact of I need to go research and then research the CEO and look for those small things. That's so good. That's so good.
It's a process though. It takes time, but it's so worth it.
Yeah. No, that is fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, let me go pivot back to where we were at before we walked into that one. When you're starting and you're younger and you wanted to go and find an organization to work for, what type of leader are you looking for? Like, you have an entrepreneur spirit. You have I can do this myself. I like to work by myself. That's what it appears. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it appears that way. And so do you, let me ask that. That's a better way of asking. Do you want a leader, or do you want to run it to yourself, or would you rather have a peer support?
I think, well, first of all, your analysis of me is pretty spot on, I would say. So nothing to correct there. In terms of a leader, I think I do value a leader still. So like you mentioned at my old company, I did have, I was reporting directly to the CEO. And at the same time, even though he wasn't a marketer, I still learned so much from him. And he was not a micromanager. He'd really give me the most massive projects and say, hey, here's the budget. I trust you to get the results that we want. Good luck. Let me know if I can support you in any way. And to me, that's the best kind of leader. Somebody who just has that trust in me to be the expert in the fields that I was hired to be an expert in, and who relies on me to get the results we agreed on without being micromanaged, without being reminded. And I feel like even working with someone like that, I already learn a lot about what makes a great leader. Somebody who trusts their team, somebody who offers support when needed but doesn't push anything, somebody who is reliable and somebody who's there if needed, but isn't always just kind of there being like, hey, are you okay? Is everything good? Are you doing all right? So I think that's the kind of leader that I really value and that I aspire to be as well. Somebody who is trusting and trustworthy.
Man, there's a lot there. There's a lot there. So I think that's really interesting to know, because I am a person that likes a leader. I like one that I can go to and I can sit down with my boss and say, all right, sir, give me directions. Hey, ma'am, I need you to walk me through exactly what you need. I also like to be the leader to be able to encourage others and foster them. So that's very centric. But there are people that do not. Like, they like the leader to be on the side to be able to support. And what you said your leader did, and I think you said what he did was empower you and give you trust and really affirmed your ability to do the job, and then would give it to you. But still, people want someone there to be able to rely upon if I do get to a point where I need that. And that's very different. You need to lead different people very different ways.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's really no one size fits all. I was talking about that with a friend of mine the other day. He's a lot like me, so we really relate to each other in the sense of like we need a leader who lets us do our own thing. But he was saying, my girlfriend's not like that at all. She really needs someone who's always there, always making sure that she's kind of staying on the right path, letting her know what the next task is. And there's a lot of people like that, and they excel in certain positions. And yeah, I think that not only do they need to find these kind of people need to find leaders who align with them, but leaders also need to be adaptable to work with different people. Because for instance, if I'm working in the same company as her, the approach the leader will need to take for each of us is completely different. And I think having that flexibility and adaptability is so important for a leader.
Yeah, golly. Okay, so as a leader, it's important for you to get to know your people and to be able to do that. How do people get to know you? Like, obviously the test of time, but have you ever had a leader that like really got to know you, that wasn't like awkward, like, all right, we're going to get to know each other, write down your 3 favorite things? What do you value, and what have you seen on?
I think leading by example is a huge one. And this really just came to me on the spot. I thought I'd have to think about it, but I recalled certain instances where, as you mentioned, the leaders who kind of force it and do say that sort of thing of like, tell me about yourself. Tell me your 3 favorite things about yourself. Like that, I hate that. Personally, that is not for me. I'm saying that for anyone listening. Don't do that to me. But leaders who lead by example. So a good example I have of that is when I had a meeting with, one of my bosses, and we were sitting there. We just kind of met each other recently, and he started telling me, I was like, "Oh, how was your weekend?" And he started telling me about his weekend, not getting too personal, but kind of just sharing something he was going through. And he was like, "This might impact my day to day. This has been really on my mind a lot." And I was like, "Okay, so he's kind of testing the waters to see if we're okay talking about these things together." And he shared that, and I was like, "Oh, I actually had something happen recently as well." So we kind of, he opened the conversation, I kept it going, and we were comfortable sharing that. And later it came up again, my issue came up a couple months later, and I just casually mentioned it, and he was like, "Okay, I get it. Get off work when you need to, do what you got to do." And we had that mutual understanding where it wasn't too personal and wasn't forced or pushy or like infringing on my space. But because he opened that conversation and he started it, I felt like I could continue it. So I think that's a great way as a leader to get to know people, where you lead by example, you share something, you start a certain conversation and see if they're receptive to it and see if they're comfortable having those conversations with you.
Gosh, that's fantastic. Yeah. Like the vulnerability that you show, not overly. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to be too real, but just opening that door a little bit and allowing people to walk through.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. That like, and if you can do that effectively, then you don't have to get to the tell me your three basic things that you like so
Yes.
much. You can actually have conversations. And I think a lot of the younger leaders that listen to this who are in their first supervision are probably going to start with your tell me your three things until
Yeah.
you can get to the point where you can literally have a conversation and communicate. I won't get on to we don't communicate very well as a society today, although I totally believe that. We have to be able to work with people, and relationships are so critical. And in my mind, leading is all about taking care of people, which means
Mm-hmm.
that you have to listen and learn to know them and want to know them, not just what they can do for you. That makes sense.
That's exactly it. I was gonna say you have to really want that relationship to be there. It can't be about, I want to get to know you so you can do stuff for me, so you can get the results that I want. It has to be about genuinely caring about them.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna pivot again. One of the things that I wanted to do this really first quarter of 2020 was talk about mental health and just how everybody's doing. And I think this is so big because a lot of type A people, and I don't say that as a positive, type A can be extremely negative because I'm so mission focused and I want to get into it. I don't stop and pull out to look and say, how are the people doing? How is everybody doing? And so I want to do that. And I'm making an effort to do that. So let me ask you a question. And we've talked about this, and it's fun because I love diving into what people are passionate about. But we've talked about things that are sort of help us relate, reset, and move to that. Yours is animals. So tell us about why animals are passion. And then do you have anything? Do you have a pet? Do you have something or a place that you go that you just feel like you can just breathe?
So yeah, I do love animals. I think it's genetic because my mom is obsessed with animals. So I grew up being raised by a cat a little bit. My grandma and mom still talk about it so much that she would like run to me when I was crying. She would cuddle me to make me calm down. She was the only one who could do
Mm,
that. People just did not work for me. It was always her. And unfortunately, she passed away when I was really little, but I still remember her well. And I remember sharing my food with her. She was just my favorite person, but she was a cat. And I think that really stayed with me throughout my whole life. And all animals, absolutely all animals I love, but cats in particular, I just have a special bond with. It's kind of sad because I'm really allergic to them. Not all of them, but like 9 out of 10 breeds I'm allergic to, and I don't know which ones. So my cat growing up,
oh
no
no.
allergies. My best friend's cat growing up, no allergies. Random cat at a random person's house, full allergies. Like, it does not depend on anything. And I don't have my own as a result. I'm scared to get a cat, get attached, then have my allergies act up. But
Mhm.
I do go to the local cat cafe a lot. We have one in the city where I live, and it is my favorite place. They know me by name. When I show up, they don't ask my name for the reservation. They're like, "Oh, hi." They're like, "You're here again." And I just love it there. Like, sometimes I go there and I just end up with a cat in each arm, and we're just hanging out there, and I'll be eating cake, and the vibes are just so positive. I love it.
What is a cat cafe? I'm not familiar.
What? You've never heard of a cat cafe? B2B I
I
can
don't.
understand, but a cat cafe? So it is exactly what the name suggests. This one, I think they have 8 cats living there. They serve food, they serve drinks, and while you eat and drink, you get to hang out with cats. And it's surprisingly super sanitary. This specific one I love because it doesn't smell like cats at all. It's really clean. My allergies generally don't act up there because they keep it so clean. And yeah, you just get to sit. Cats sit on your lap. They hang out with you and you get to enjoy some really good food and drink.
That's crazy. So, okay. So is this common in Europe or am I just missing it and it's in the US too?
It's in the US too. I actually heard of my first one in LA. I heard about it in 2010, I think, and I wanted to visit when I was going down to LA, but then I found out that it cost $25 to enter and the food was so expensive. And I was like, I love cats, but like, I'm already in LA. Like, I'm already poor at this point. I cannot afford a cat cafe visit. But here, what I love is that it's not, extremely unaffordable. It's €3 to enter at the moment. It used to be free, but everything's expensive, so I get it. And the food is just
Yeah.
regular price. I don't know, €4 for a piece of cake, same as anywhere else. So yeah, I absolutely love it. It's all over Europe. It's all over the US.
Ah, okay. So we're definitely taking that out of the podcast that I have no idea what a
No,
cat
you have to
cafe
keep it
is.
in there. You have to. You have to be honest as a leader.
All right. I will admit my faults. That's great. Um, let me ask you, like now, what are you learning? Like, what is it that you're like diving into and saying, I've got to get better at this. I've got to learn.
So, do you mean like in my work specifically or just in life?
Let's go work specifically, and then we'll
Mhm.
go life.
So, work specifically, I'm learning to be better at Excel because everyone
Hmm.
always says they're good at Excel when they apply for a
Mhm.
job, but all of us are lying, and you cannot tell me otherwise. Nobody's good at Excel. But I actually want to excel at Excel. Um,
Ah,
I'm just really not good at it. I've made some budget sheets on it, and it's always been probably the worst part of my month anytime I've done that, and I'm just not good at it. So I'm really on a mission to improve that because it actually is useful for work. And like my husband's a pro at it, which is crazy because I'm like, people like you are not real. How does this happen? And I know how much it helps him with his day-to-day job, so I hope to get to that point as well.
so I will get on like Instagram Reels or LinkedIn has their Reels, and they'll be like, here's something you didn't know on Excel. And they were like,
Yeah.
people actually do this. And I'm like, yeah, I do it all the time. I was like, no, I didn't know I could do it. So yeah, that's fantastic. What a great way of being able to go through. I should have looked. I don't think I did. Are you on LinkedIn Premium?
I am ending in a few days. I have a complicated relationship with LinkedIn Premium.
Don't we all? Don't we all? And so, um, yeah, it's just so expensive, but the
Mhm.
lessons on there are fantastic.
Mhm.
When I can stay disciplined to do them and not do the million other things that I need to do. But that's why I was asking because
Mhm.
I think they do have Excel on the LinkedIn Premium.
Oh,
So before you jump off, take a
yeah.
look. There may be a couple of good ones on there. Okay,
Noted.
what are you learning in your personal life?
I think I'm learning, constantly learning, how do I phrase this? I guess to better understand people and different
Mm,
kinds of people because, you find yourself associating with a certain kind of person you like, your friends, your family, the people you really get on well with. But when you're working, you work with all kinds of people. And these will
mm.
often be people who you necessarily or wouldn't necessarily choose in a personal setting. And the result is more often than not miscommunication, misalignment, and you just don't know what to do because you're like, I've never been in this situation before. So I'm really making it a point to learn to get on better with different kinds of people, even if they're not people who would necessarily be in my innermost circle. So that means stepping out and going to more in person events, having more conversations, and kind of just engaging in discussions I otherwise wouldn't.
Yeah, that's really funny because your personal goal is probably going to be far more impactful in your work than your work goal.
That's
Like,
true. I really think so too.
because it, like, no matter what you do, we all work with people
Yep.
and we all have to deal with people. And a lot of the times, dealing is the key word because there are some people out there that you're like, "Bro, how do I understand these people?" But once you do understand them, man, it makes a world difference. When empathy rises, like
Hmm.
the whole world changes on that. So that's good. All right. Well, we've been going. Oh my goodness, we've been going 30 minutes. It seems like 2 minutes. I've enjoyed this. It's been awesome. Okay, what did we miss? Is there anything out there that we didn't talk about? Or do you have anything for young leaders that you're like, hey, they could really do?
Yeah, I think I would tell them to not be afraid to start over. And what I mean is, when I spent so much time studying business economics with my Wall Street goals, and then I switched majors, a little part of me felt like, do I actually want to do this? I got so far already. But then I was like, I still have my whole life ahead of me. And I'd rather spend it doing something that I'm genuinely passionate about, even if that passion changes every few years, every couple decades, every decade, whatever it is. Because I often feel like we get into this idea that, oh, I already spent so much time on this, it would be silly to stop now. But I think it's even sillier to keep at it if your heart's not fully in it. And I mean, as somebody who thought, Wall Street and then political science and then marketing, and I wanted to own a bakery at one point, like the things I wanted to do, like it's crazy. And even if today I said, hey, I actually want to go full time into computer science, I would do it because if I want to do it, I should. I still have my whole life ahead of me. And just because I spent however long it is doing something else, it doesn't mean that time was wasted. It doesn't mean that, I'm a failure because I'm trying to do something different now. So I definitely want to remind people, because I especially see this with college students who graduate and then they're like, oh no, I wish I didn't study that. It doesn't matter. You studied it, you got your degree, you did the things you wanted to do. Now you're going to do something different. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's never too late and it's never too early. It's always just time to do whatever you want to do.
Man, we could probably just unpack that little piece right there. But I love that, do what you want to do. It's never too late. Change the mindset if you need to. One of the things that you've demonstrated, and we've talked about leaders and how they demonstrate leadership, the courage that you've had to swap jobs, move different places, do the things that you want to do, being true to who you are and what you want while taking care of people and being respectful to others. Man, that's huge, and what a life to follow after. So awesome. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you reaching out and introducing yourself on LinkedIn. It's been a blast to have the conversation and to get to know you a little bit better. And I'm excited to do that. Let me take 2 seconds here. And if people want to learn more about marketing, if they want to learn about B2B or things like that, how do people get a hold of you to ask you questions or to reach out to work with you?
Well, they can always just DM me on LinkedIn. My DMs are always open and I always make a point of responding to every single one. Otherwise, you can always reach me through the contact page on my website with any work inquiries or with anything else.
All right. And I will make sure to put your website and your LinkedIn profile in the comments below, and we'll go from there. Well, thanks for everybody for checking on today. It's been fun. Hope you got a lot out of it. And until next time, this is TUC0's Wright checking off.